We know Canada likes to brag about being boring, safe, and predictable. A place where the most dangerous thing on the nightly news is geese blocking traffic.
Yeah, well, CSIS just tapped the microphone and basically said, nope, wake up, Canada. The world has changed.
China and Russia are targeting Canada's government, our companies, our military tech, and our Arctic. Iran has already tried to target people on Canadian soil, and extremists online are recruiting kids at a rate that we have not seen before.
This isn't someday. It's right now. It's happening while global democracy is weakening everywhere. And it's happening while authoritarian regimes get smarter, richer, and bolder.
And yes, before we go on, we need to talk about our neighbors, because the United States still likes to call itself a democracy, but they were downgraded years ago to a flawed democracy at the start of Trump 1.0. And that's not us being snarky, that's the international assessment. Canada is still in the full democracy column, which is great, but only if we're willing to defend it.
So today we're diving into why foreign regimes want us weaker, why democracies like ours are more fragile than people think, and how we fight back before we end up as someone else's cautionary tale.
So I hope that your coffee is strong, because this is not a light and fluffy Saturday. Let's get into it.
Sorry about that. Anyway, we grew up believing democracy was a natural state of things, like gravity. Of course countries would end up here. Of course people would vote. Of course this system would hold. It felt permanent. Something you could trust without even thinking about it.
Except, that's not how the rest of the world sees it. Only about 6% of the world lives in a full democracy. We're in that tiny club, luckily, but that club is shrinking.
The US fell out of that category years ago with their violent polarization, weak institutions, and a justice system being twisted around politics. The world stopped pretending everything was fine, and the experts ranked them as a flawed democracy.
And here's the bigger point. Democracies don't usually collapse because someone storms the Capitol, although that helps. And they don't usually collapse with tanks rolling in. They collapse slowly with shrugs. Institutions hollow out, trust breaks down, polarization ramps up, and by the time anyone asks, hey, should we be worried? It's already happening.
That's why CSIS is raising alarms, because when foreign states see democracies wobble, they don't sit back politely, they move in, they push, they prod, and they try to accelerate all the cracks.
In Canada, we're right next to a superpower that's drifting further from democratic norms every year. When the United States stumbles, Canada becomes even more exposed.
Canada's the perfect target. Stable, wealthy, resource-rich, plugged into every major alliance, and sitting on top of the Arctic. The new global prize everybody's suddenly pretending they always cared about.
If you're planning world domination in Beijing or Moscow, you're not thinking Canada's harmless. You're thinking that's our window. If we can mess with Canada, disrupt their politics, fracture their unity, that weakens NATO, Five Eyes, the G7 all at once.
So yes, democracies are rare, and they're not guaranteed. If anything, they're the political equivalent of a coral reef. Beautiful, complex, and incredibly easy to kill if you don't protect them.
Which brings us to why these regimes are targeting us specifically, and how they're doing it. It's not the way most people imagine. No spies in trench coats, no stolen briefcases. It's much smoother, much quieter, and it works because we underestimate it.
China, Russia, Iran, they want Canada weaker. So let's start with the obvious question. Why would these regimes even care about us?
Well, reason one, resources and geography. Canada is a jackpot. Critical minerals, fresh water, energy, coastlines, and the Arctic, the next global power arena.
China wants a strategic foothold in the Arctic, and Russia, they already have one, with military installations across its northern coast. If Canada is divided, distracted, or diplomatically isolated, it becomes easier to pressure us on the Arctic rules, like shipping lanes and resource deals.
Reason two, alliances. We're in literally every major democratic alliance. NATO, NORAD, G7, Five Eyes. We're the connective tissue between American military power and Western intelligence networks. If you weaken Canada, you weaken all of that.
And there's technology, reason 3. Russian rockets in Ukraine have been found with Canadian components. They were routed through shell companies in Hong Kong and Europe. If you're a sanctioned regime, a distracted Canada is the perfect backdoor.
We should be clear about the differences, though. Canada does trade with China. It's actually one of our top trading partners. But trade is not trust, and it comes with tighter screening on tech, data, and infrastructure.
So the line is this. We have engagement with China under guardrails. We have isolation of Russia and Iran under sanctions. The risk isn't trading goods. The risk is letting any of that spill into our security, data, infrastructure, or decision-making. That's where we hold the line.
But even when we draw those boundaries, these regimes, they don't stop. They just shift tactics.
Which brings us to reason 4, intimidating the people who escaped those regimes and found safety in Canada. We're home to Hong Kong dissidents, Iranian activists, Russian exiles, and critics who escaped authoritarian rule. To those regimes, Canada is a threat because we give their critics a platform. They silence the critics here, you silence the global pressure.
So how exactly did these regimes target Canada? It's not like in the movies, like we said. It's much easier and much more subtle. And it's already happening through disinformation and social chaos.
They flood social media with content that inflames people. Immigration, Indigenous rights, the Middle East, Canadian elections. Anything that divides us and makes Canadians furious at each other rather than the foreign states causing the disruption.
They don't need to change your mind. They just need to make you distrust everyone else. Be suspicious of your neighbors, your media, your institutions, basically anyone who isn't you.
If they can get Canadians arguing all day and doubting everything, they don't need boots on the ground. The division does the work for them.
Another tactic is economic infiltration, and this one is really sneaky. It's where foreign states use business deals as Trojan horses. Russia sets up fake European companies to buy Canadian aerospace parts. Those parts end up inside Russian missiles and drones in Ukraine. Canadian tech in Russian bombs because someone filled out a fake invoice in Prague.
Meanwhile, China uses investments, academic partnerships, and supposedly innocent talent programs. They use that to scoop up Canadian research, intellectual property, and emerging tech.
It's influenced by wallet. They're buying the ingredients they need for military and economic dominance. And because our enforcement is slow, they move fast. Canada's sanctions enforcement hasn't kept up with their creativity, so they exploit the gaps.
Then there's what's happening in the Arctic. Regular people still think it's just snow and northern lights, but it's so much more. It's the world's next strategic battleground.
Yep, Russia already has a major military presence up there. China wants access to shipping routes and mineral deposits. And a distracted, divided Canada makes their job a whole lot easier.
If we lose control of the narrative in the north, we lose real power, economically and geopolitically.
Another threat that doesn't get enough attention is direct intimidation happening right here in Canada. Iran has already allegedly plotted assassinations on Canadian soil. Not just threats, CSIS has confirmed that they disrupted actual lethal plots. That's how bold they've become.
Dissidents from regime countries, they've all faced harassment, surveillance, and pressure campaigns right here. Sometimes their families back home even get threatened.
Another method? Recruiting Canadians themselves. Foreign intelligence has reached out to Canadians through LinkedIn, job sites, and DMs offering consulting work, which is basically code for, tell us what you know.
Why break into a system when you can just hire someone who already has access? It's simple, it's quiet, and it works.
And finally, the one that keeps CSIS up at night, radicalizing young people. Nearly 1 in 10 terrorism files now involves at least one minor. Kids pulled into extremist thinking by algorithm-driven rabbit holes and anonymous online groups.
This is brand new territory for Canada. These aren't kids joining organized cells. This is online influence turning teenagers into lone actors. That's new, that's dangerous, and it's happening mostly online.
When kids get radicalized by these algorithmic rabbit holes, democracies don't just lose safety, they lose future voters before they even grow up enough to vote.
And foreign regimes know that shaping the mindset of young people is one of the most effective ways to undermine a country long term.
And here's the part that should really worry Canadians the most. Foreign regimes don't need to defeat us. They just need us too distracted to notice we're being weakened.
And this is not theoretical. Vladimir Putin said years ago that he could undermine the United States without firing a single shot. And frankly, looking at the last decade, it's hard to argue that he didn't pull it off.
Because let's be honest, Trump behaves like the most convenient asset Russia ever had. Not because anyone claims he's on their payroll today, but because his actions consistently serve the Kremlin's interests. U.S. intelligence has openly warned about its susceptibility to foreign influence. And yes, Russian operatives literally gave him a code name. That alone tells you exactly how they saw him and how useful he was to them.
And the real danger for Canada is that the exact same tactics are showing up here, just with different messages.
Take Pierre Poilievre, for example. He still hasn't secured full national security clearance, which means he's asking Canadians to hand him the keys to the country without the intelligence community being confident that he can be trusted with classified briefings.
And what does he do instead of getting said clearance? Well, he parrots Trump's talking points almost word for word. The same attacks on the media, the same conspiracy rhetoric, the same performative outrage designed to inflame people. He's not here to inform them at all.
And then there's Jamil Javani, who's basically importing the entire American far-right communication model into Canada. Campus tours aimed at angry young men, victimhood messaging dressed up as empowerment, and the same culture war bait that authoritarian regimes love, because it fractures communities faster than any foreign operation could.
And none of this is accidental. It's part of the distraction machine. If Canadians are yelling at each other, doubting institutions, and blaming their neighbors instead of the foreign states actively targeting us, then the foreign states don't need to lift a finger.
Nope, a divided Canada can't defend the Arctic. It can't secure its data, it can't protect dissidents, it can't enforce sanctions, and it can't respond to global threats.
Because democracy isn't just about having the right to vote. It's cohesion, it's unity, it's trust, it's a shared reality and values.
And that's exactly what foreign regimes and the politicians who repeat their narratives aim to break, because it's cheaper, quieter, and more effective than any missile.
So why do the likes of Daniel Smith, Pierre Poilievre, Jamil Javani, Melissa Lantsman, why do they lean into tactics that divide Canadians and chip away at trust in institutions? Well, I can't read minds, and I'm not alleging anyone is on a foreign payroll, but the incentives are painfully obvious.
First, outrage is a business model. The modern media rewards the loudest clip, not the best argument. Anger drives clicks, clicks drive fundraising, fundraising drives campaigns. If your metric is engagement, then rage becomes a strategy.
Second, polarization is a shortcut. It's easier to brand opponents as enemies than to present a serious policy or argument. When you promise everything and refuse solutions, you never have to explain the costs or timelines. You just punch the referee in the face and walk off with the crowd.
Third, distraction shields weakness. If you keep media cycles focused on fights and personal feuds, nobody has time to ask why someone still isn't cleared full national security vetting.
Fourth, importing U.S.-style tactics moves the Overton window. Jamil Javani's campus tours target disaffected young men with grievance messaging dressed up as empowerment. He's not doing it for civic education. He's trying to capture the audience. It hardens resentment and treats politics like a blood sport.
And fifth, the algorithm is the real organizer. Social platforms privilege content that shocks, humiliates, or scares. If you feed that machine, it will feed you back with attention and money. But it also corrodes shared reality, and some politicians are happy to make it.
And here's the bottom line. Whether it's Smith, constant escalation of separatism, Poilievre echoing U.S. talking points, Jamil Javani hard-selling grievance to young bros, or Lantsman's rage-bait TV hits, Whether they're intentional or not, the result lines up with what foreign adversaries want: a fractured Canada, a weaker democracy, and less faith in the rules that protect all of us.
We're not saying they work for Moscow. We're saying that their tactics do Moscow's work for free, and Canada pays a price in trust, stability, and security.
Which is why this isn't just about politics, it's national resilience. If we reward the performative outrage, well, we keep getting more of it, and we'll keep getting weaker.
So we draw the line. We can debate fiercely and still refuse to burn down the referees. Look, institutions aren't perfect, but destroy them and you don't get reform, you get a vacuum, and someone a lot less democratic will fill that vacuum.
So how do we defend ourselves without turning Canada into a security state? Because our strength is our openness, but that's also our vulnerability. So what can be done?
Luckily, we have a calm leader in office right now who doesn't slam the RCMP and intelligence agencies and who respects institutions. These institutions are our shield against interference. So, when Pierre Poilievre publicly called the RCMP's leadership despicable, that's dangerous.
When you call a national law enforcement institution despicable, it doesn't just fire up the news cycle, it undermines public trust in the agency that has to defend us from foreign infiltration, tech theft, and sanction invasions. A weakened RCMP means weaker defenses, and authoritarians know exactly what that looks like.
So, what can Canadians do to counter this? Well, we can stop electing leaders who attack defenders from the inside. We can support our law enforcement, our media, and fund them and let them do their jobs. Foreign regimes thrive when people give up on facts. So the anecdote is journalism that follows the evidence, not the rage economy. Support independent media and double-check sources before hitting send. If you don't know who made a meme, don't make it famous. Every share is free labor for foreign influence operations.
And we all need to participate, even in the boring stuff. Democracy doesn't crumble at the federal level first, it crumbles in school boards and municipal councils when extremists sneak in unopposed.
Don't give up on democracy because it's messy, because that's exactly what authoritarian regimes want. For Canadians to say, this is too dysfunctional to save. They don't fear our anger, they fear our participation.
Canada is still a full democracy, and that's rare, and that makes us a target. Foreign regimes want to divide us, discourage us, and distract us. They want Canadians to believe democracy is a lost cause.
But the truth is simple. We're only vulnerable if we stop caring, and Canadians are showing that they care. We're united, and we're fighting back. Canada doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to be awake.
So if you want a democracy worth passing on, you have to protect it loudly, proudly, and every single day, just like we're doing right here on the planet D.
And if you like this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and share this one, because awareness is the first line of defense.
And if you want more deep dives like this, join our community, support the channel by joining the A-Team, and keep this work going. We also have a Substack where we go even deeper than our videos.
So thanks again for watching today. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you tomorrow.
Ciao for now.